Hello, sister, and welcome to the Art of Spiritual Living online retreat. My name is Elizabeth Foley. I am an artist and a creative catalyst. I help women overcome their creative blocks and get in touch with their creative spirit. We are joined today by Jane Sneeden-Peever, and she is going to be exploring with us how working with a mandala and drawing mandalas can be a meditation. And before we dive in today, I want to lead us in a little breath practice so that we can all just get really present here together and so that we can be really present to receive what Jane has for us today. So I'm going to invite you to just close your eyes with me for a moment and just bring your attention to your breath. Just noticing your breath as it's passing in and out of your body. Noticing your chest as it's rising and falling. And now noticing anything that's come before this moment, anything that's weighing on you or pulling on your energy. Let's take a deep breath in together. For right now, let's just let that all go. And now noticing anything that's coming in the future that's pulling you out of this moment, anything you're nervous about or worried about, let's take a deep breath in together. And as we exhale, just let that all go. Now let's take one last deep breath together, just bringing ourselves fully into this moment, right here, right now. And I'm going to invite you to keep your eyes closed for another moment while I share today's reading. This is called Instructions for the Journey by Pat Schneider. The self you leave behind is only a skin you have outgrown. Don't grieve for it. Look to the wet, raw, unfinished self, the one you are becoming. The world, too, sheds its skin. Politicians, cataclysms, ordinary days. It's easy to lose this tenderly unfolding moment. Look for it as if it were the first green blade after a long winter. Listen for it as if it were the first clear tone in a place where dawn is heralded by bells. And if all that fails, wash your own dishes, rinse them, stand in your kitchen at your sink, let the cold water run between your fingers, feel it. And again, that was called Instructions for the Journey by Pat Schneider. It's from this book, Another River. Ooh, I don't know if you could see that. So I am so pleased to be welcoming today Jane, and I want to tell you a little bit about her before we get going into our session today. So Jane Sneeden-Peever is an illustrator and pattern designer living in Ontario, Canada. She is known for her intricate mandala designs, which she creates using pen and ink and digitally on the iPad. Her drawing style includes engaging and detailed patterns of geometric and organic shapes, which she playfully combines with symmetry. Jane enjoys using her mandala drawing practice as a way to reconnect, slow down, and as a form of meditation. She finds inspiration throughout nature, old architecture, and in her interest of sacred geometry. She enjoys sharing her process in a simple and approachable way so that everyone can experience both the relaxing and energizing effects of drawing mandalas. You can find Jane exploring creative drawing ideas weekly on her blog, and you can learn more of her simple techniques through her courses and workbooks available through her website. So welcome, Jane.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. I'm excited to do mandalas. I love drawing mandalas, and
Awesome.
yeah, I have at times had like a daily mandala practice, so I'm excited about sharing this. Before we dive into that, I'd love to just talk a little bit about like what spirituality means to you.
Sure. For me, spirituality is just really connecting with something that's an energy that's greater than us, I guess. It's connecting with my spirituality for me is just channeling through whatever is coming in the moment for that day. That's why I like doing the mandalas, because it kind of helps me center and just allow it to come through. So I think it's a personal thing, spirituality, but I definitely think it's connecting to a larger something larger than ourselves, and it's finding a way to open up to that, and in every moment.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about what we're going to be doing today.
So we're going to be drawing a mandala, and I really like to do the symmetrical mandalas. So I'm very much in the head type person. It's very hard for me to get out of my head sometimes. So the mandalas really help with that. And I do them in a framework. So I love making the frameworks just as much. But once I have the frameworks and I can reuse them, then that just it kind of releases my thinking brain. And I can just fill in the little sections at a time. So it helps me come more in the moment and be more with every little section as I fill it in. And then once I usually do these in pencil first, and then I can just use the ink after. So it's not really thinking about it. So I can just allow anything to flow through while I'm doing that. So I don't have to think about it.
Great. And I know you've got a framework here for everybody. It's right below the video. So if you haven't already printed that out, I'm going to encourage you to pause for a moment and go ahead and print that out. Or if you're like me and have a broken printer, I just traced it off the computer. So it's not perfect, but it'll work.
I love making these by hand as well, but I wanted to get everybody started with the same one and just work on filling it in.
Cool. Cool. Well, anything else you want to say before we dive in?
I don't think so. This is all about an experience that happens for you. So it's not about having the perfect look to your art. It's more about that's why I call it meditation. It's more of a process. What it looks like in the end doesn't matter, and it's always going to look beautiful. So just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah, that's great encouragement. And also a reminder for all of you who don't think of yourselves as artists, that this is a really great creative practice that can be really accessible for you.
Yeah, so we can get started anytime.
All right, let's go for it.
And there's your framework underneath.
Oh, cool.
So I use the masking tape so it doesn't shift around on me. And then, or you can use clips, whatever works for you. So I don't know if you can see that in the camera, but you can just see the lines coming through. And what we're going to do is work on one section at a time. So I always suggest for one that's a more meditative process is just to pick one shape. And my favorite shape is a petal, because you can make it curve in any direction, and you can make it fit the section that you're working on. So this particular, I'll get the one that you'd print out. This one I've actually made by dividing it into 8. So this is the symmetry. So I've taken 8 of these circles and rotated them around the center. And then I took 2 squares and rotated them once. So it divides it up into all these little wee sections. And if you'll see, each of these sections repeats 8 times total all the way around. So all you have to do is fill in one of these, and then you'll just repeat it all the way around. So today I'm just going to work on filling in one of these sections. If we get some time, I'll start doing the repeating. But if you work your way to fill in one section, then it's just a nice, relaxing process to fill in the rest, because you don't have to think about what you're putting in. You just look at what you've already done. So one section would literally be, it's not going to be a perfect pie shape, but it's really only this size right here. So I like to start from the center. That's just the way I always work them, and it feels right for me. If you prefer, you can work from the outside in, or you can jump around. But I find it flows nicely by working from the center. So the first section we have is this little oval here. And I'm literally just going to do one petal to fit that. You can do an assortment. I'm going to show you later some different ones that I've done so that you can get an idea of the variety. For this one section, I'm just going to do a petal shape that fits within those borders. Now, it doesn't have to be the shape of the section. It just has to fit inside of that. So that petal is going to get repeated all the way around 8 times. So I'm just going to move on to each of the sections, and then we'll see how much time we have left to do any repeating. So the next section is this one up here, which is actually divided down the center. And I love center lines because they help me with symmetry. So this first one here, I'm just going to fill it with floating curved petals. This is why I love the petal shape, is you can just draw them any size and you can make them work around themselves. You can make big ones and little ones, and you just keep adding them in until you've reached that section that's filled in. Now, I can do something different on the other side, but I'm actually going to mirror that, and not exactly, but I'm going to do the same idea on this side. And sometimes my perfectionist mind wants to go, okay, so there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on this side. I want 5 on this side. You don't have to. It's, again, it's all about the process, and it'll look pretty no matter what you do. So now we've got 3 sections filled in already. The next section is this big one over here. And I don't have a center line in that one. And if you want, you can use your pencil and just draw one in. Now again, like I use pencil to do this because I just find it flows better. And I do use my eraser if I'm not happy with what I've done. But a pen kind of makes you commit. But it is also a nice process to have the whole thing done in pencil. And then you just sit down. I'll sit down in the evening. The kids want to chat or my husband's watching a show. I can just sit with them and just literally ink in the lines and not have to think about it. So they're great to do by yourself, but they're really great if you want to sit and chat with your kids or someone in the family, and they just give you something to do. So I'm just doing the same thing on each side of this one as well. And for this one, I'm going to stick a little petal right at the top. Now, if you want, you can work with more than one shape. You can put some circles in as you go too. I just like to keep it pretty simple so that you're not overthinking the process. So the next one we'll do is this little section here. The other thing is the more you draw these, the better you get at the shape. Now as I go, I'll rotate it as well, so that I'm always drawing the shape in the way that I like the best, because it's really hard to draw things upside down, like to draw this in the other direction. It would definitely work on your drawing skills. So the next section is this little one in here. And I'm kind of going a little fast on this, so you can take your time, go as slow as you want. Again, it's all about the process. And I'm just working on getting the shapes in. You'll see when we're done, I'll show you a few examples. Afterwards, you can add in little detail as you go. You can add it in after. So we're getting close to finishing our sections. We have this section here, which is divided down the center, and this, actually, I guess these two over here. So we'll work on this little diamond shape that's divided down the center. And I'm making pretty much all my leaves, petals, are facing outward. To give it interest, you could totally flip it upside down and make your petals face inwards. The other thing you'll find as you do this is that the sections will start to work together. So here was a separate section, and here was a separate section, as was this one. But they all kind of work together to make a nice curved leaf botanical design. So again, on the other side of this line, I'm going to mimic this one. So this is very symmetrical. I also really love the feel of working a design that's, I guess you'd say asymmetrical, which would be, say the petals are going this way on this side, and then you reverse it and make them all go backwards on this side. So I have two more sections to fill in that are literally mirrored of each other. And I'm going to stay with my theme of making my petals go from the center outwards. And you can, if you want, you could use one petal for each section, just making them really large. That would be a really cool design as well. I find I just use regular copy paper to do this. So I always find my frameworks show up just fine. If you have a light box, that might even help more. It would really show up through that. Or if you're working on a thicker paper. So there we've filled in all the sections for one pie shape. So you're literally going to do this section, this group of sections, 8 times all the way around, and you're going to end up with your finished mandala. So I would rotate it, and I would want this to come down to my center. I would start repeating them. And you could do them each section at a time, or you could go all the way around and just finish one. So it's different, a different experience each time that you do this because of how you do it. So if you were to do each section and repeat it all the way around, your whole mandala would work its way out. And you come up with ideas as you've created the sections before, so that something else grows from it.
You're giving me lots of really great ideas here. Something totally different than any mandala I've ever created before.
Are you relaxed? Yeah, I can get into my head big time with these things when I'm doing detail in each one and I want it to look a certain way. So it's nice to step back and just do one that's about working with whatever comes to mind.
So what are your suggestions for people if they find they're doing this and they're getting in their head about it?
I would literally just step back, take a breath, as I do with everything in life that gets a little into my head.
Yeah.
And let it go. Just allow it to come. I find if you can step back, put your pencil down, take a breath, what wants to fill the space usually comes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I often find they will, I say they talk to me, not necessarily verbally, but you just get a feeling for what should fit that space and trust it. It's also an exercise in trusting what comes through. So I do a lot of yoga. I'm a yoga teacher as well. And I find a lot of similarities between drawing the mandalas and being on the mat. It's a lot about letting go, being where you are in the moment, not judging it at all, and learning to listen more to your heart as to what will come through. So you start to get the idea as you start repeating them. It really starts to make a nice design. And I really have found that no matter what you draw, it turns out nice.
One thing I'm really noticing about mine is I have this tendency to judge that, like, well, that shape's not exactly like that other one over there, that it's supposed to be matching. But I find as I stop and just look at it, that it has this nice organic quality. Like, it still looks nice, even though I'm worried about it.
Yes, exactly. And we're really into judging in the moment because we can see it in all the different things that I've done, whenever I do them, I can see where all my mistakes, so to speak, are, but nobody else sees them because they see it as a whole and they see the beauty in it.
Mm-hmm.
I did a bunch of these for a doodle company, and I did them all by hand, and some of them were poster size, so they were fun, but they were a lot of drawing. And I asked the guy I was working with at one point, I said, I can do these on the computer. They might come up a little faster. And he said, no, I want hand-drawn, because he said, I want that hand-drawn look. I want it to look, I want the mistakes, he said. Mm. So that was kind of an eye-opener for me. I thought, yeah, there is a kind of a magical quality to hand drawing that working on the computer kind of smooths out and you can't see it. So, and I have to keep stepping back and remembering to hand draw on paper, because I do a lot of the stuff on the iPad now with the Apple Pencil, and I love the feel of it, and I can rotate things and I come up with some really cool stuff, but I have to remember that there's a process to the hand drawing that you can't duplicate on a computer.
Interesting. I've never drawn really on a computer.
I never liked doing it when you had to use those tablets. I just couldn't get the feel for it. But the thing with the iPad, it's right in front of you. So you actually feel like you're drawing. But you can fix it so quick too. So it's nice because I can produce stuff faster, so I get a lot more ideas out. But when it comes to the purpose of doing it for a meditation, back to paper. I'm back to paper.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And a lot of it is just being with the speed that it's going. Like, it's not about drawing it fast, and it's really about the process. And it's hard to watch a lot of people criticize their art when it's about the process. It's like, again, like in yoga, if you don't get the pose perfect, it's perfect for that day. It's where your body's at that day. So this is where your mind is at. And it's more about and I'm sitting in front of the television, which I'm not a big TV watcher, but I'll sit up there in the evening sometimes with the family. And the next day when I pick the drawing up, I can remember everything that was going on in the show. So there's something about it opening up your mind, about it making you more open and to do it out in nature.
Jane, let's see, we are having some connection issues. Oh, there we go. We're back now.
Are we?
Yep, we're good.
Good stuff. So I'll show you some that I've already done so you can get the idea for it, because I don't want to rush everybody through it. You get the concept, and I want people to enjoy it. But when we're done, so all my petals in this one are kind of floating. I call that floating petals. So this is the same idea as the floating petals. You'll notice in the center here, I did a little different. I put a stack of petals in to that one center section. And then I just used one petal to surround each of them, and then filled in each. So this is the exact same framework. And then when I added some color and some stippling, I ended up with this idea. So it's amazing where you can take it if you just work at it. I always say you work in layers. So the drawing of it is only the first stage in my experience. And then from there, you just color it in. You can color it with colored pencils or markers and add in some detail. Here I added in some little circles just to accent that little section. And then another one from the exact same framework is this one. And here, these petals kind of formed their own design. So this section here was the same section where I made them go outwards, but this time I made them go inwards. So they worked with the surrounding areas to make kind of a large leaf. And then up here, I used each of these sections to create a flower. So then when you add in some color, this one I just colored them all in with black ink, but again, you can add detail, you could color them with colored pencil. That's always a nice relaxing thing to do as well, to color your mandalas. And you end up with something like this that is very contrasting. So you can see, you can really take one framework and do a lot of stuff with it.
Yeah, I'm loving the different ways that you've taken that framework and just made totally different things with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the way that you're using the framework. I've usually just seen people draw straight onto the framework, but I love the way that you're kind of using it as the background.
Yeah, it's nice because when you pull it off of the framework, you could draw the framework in pencil if you want to do it on the same paper. Mm-hmm. And then once you've inked your design, you just erase out the framework. And it's always fun to see what you've created once the framework is gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's actually really meditative too, just watching you do it.
Yeah, it's a little addictive. I tend to be a nighthawk because I can't put it down. Mm-hmm. So then I keep telling myself I'm going to switch, and in the morning I'm going to do them. But you stay up really late, and that's my quiet time in the house too. So I tend to do that. So I'll do it to music, or often I'll just do it in silence.
So how long do you find that it usually takes you to do a complete one this size?
Because I kind of don't put it down until I'm done. I'll do the drawing probably in a day. Mm-hmm. I do like to take my time, so if I can make myself put it down, because when you pick it up the next day, it's kind of like an old friend, and when you pick it up, you get all new ideas. They hold an energy for sure. So I'm always sad when I finish one because it's just fun to spend time with it. So I just start a new one. But yeah, I would do the drawing usually within a day. And then the next day I'll start working in on the detail. And depending on how detailed I'm getting, I could probably finish that one in a day. But maybe 3 days if you're just working in the evenings. Mm-hmm. I could probably do one in 3 days. But it depends on how much time you want to spend with it. And I would say don't rush it, because it is about the process. You could do one a week and just spend the whole week working on it.
Oh, I love that idea.
Mm-hmm. It's tricky because it's art and you want it to look a certain way, or you want to see it finished. To just stay with the process of it. Just let it be what it is and work on it as you work on it, and see what you come up with in the end. And then a lot of them, I usually frame them and put them around my space, and they hold an energy of their own. And I can even think of, there's particular ones that just by looking at them, I know where I was at when I drew them in that space. So some of them help me through difficult times, and some of them are there for great joy times, and that they all have purpose, I guess. So how's it going?
It's going really good over here. Let's see. Oh, can I share? Well, when we switch the camera back, I'll share what I.
Yeah, I don't want to rush anyone through it. I was thinking, I will just draw one and get it done for the, but it'll be pretty chunky.
Now, since I traced my framework off of the computer, so it's smaller than what you did.
Yeah.
So I'm able to kind of color it in. So I've colored it in with markers.
Oh, good.
But mine is much, much simpler than what you've done too.
Oh, that's okay. Like I said, you can even just do one or two shapes for each section. If you're finding the section too big, it's really good to just draw a line down the center of it or across the middle or both and divide it up into smaller and smaller sections. So the nice thing with the small sections is when you look at a blank page, you're overwhelmed. You're like, I don't know where to start. Even if you can find the center, you're like, I still don't know where to start. Mm-hmm. The small sections give you, in this moment, this is all I have to think about. And in this moment, this is all I have to think about.
Kind of a good metaphor for life, huh?
Yep. Yeah, very much so. Keeps you very in the moment. And the other thing that will happen as you draw these and you're repeating around, you'll repeat something in the opposite direction that you did the first one, which I keep looking here thinking, I'm going to put these petals curved the opposite way. That happens too. And I've actually done that in pieces that I've sold for production, and they love it. Some people pick up on it, some people don't, but it's almost like I used to do a lot of textile, or I did a lot of knitting and crocheting, and I could always identify my sweaters by the mistake, by the one stitch that was twisted. Mm. So I always say that's my signature, the little thing that went wrong. Again, metaphor for life. The imperfection that's in there. But if you stay with the symmetry in general, so I know some people want to do something different in every section, and that's a different way to do it. There is no wrong, but by staying with this repetition and the symmetry, it just automatically works. And I think that has to do with how much our eye really loves symmetrical things. So it just knows symmetry works.
I love how it just takes the decision-making process out of it too.
It does, yeah. And it's once you've decided on something for a section, that's what you're doing all the way around. And I have come across, many times I go, oh, I wish I'd done it this way. Mm-hmm. And think, no. And then occasionally I'll get into this, okay, I'll make this an experimental one, and I'm going to do this one this way and this one that way. And then you actually lose your focus because you're like, now it looks like nothing because, they're all over the place. Yeah. So I think, no, just make the decision and stick with it, and I'll make another one later with the other idea. So the same framework, you can come up with unlimited ideas, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, it was really cool to see you sharing your frameworks and see all the different ways that you've done it. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see all the different things that people create following the same instruction. Because wait till you see mine, it's so different.
Well, then everybody has a shape or something they like. Often when I do something like this, people who prefer more realism, like I'm so much an abstract geometric person. People who like realism, like they like to draw birds and everyday items, they'll put those in the sections and they turn out gorgeous. But I'm not really great at realism, so I'm more of your abstract geometric shape person.
Me too, but I really admire people who can do that kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
The only thing I'd say is if you're going to do that, don't get caught up in the detail of the realism, like if it's what you love to do, then do that. But don't let it break yourself out of your meditation.
Well, Jane, this has been really fun. I think we're just about out of time.
Okey doke. Well, and maybe on the page where they get the download, I can post some of these just to give them inspiration, just something to inspire you to know that there's so much you can do with it. But I am really looking forward to seeing what other people come up with.
Mm-hmm. I want to bring you back up if we can. So that's what I created.
Oh, awesome. That's beautiful. I love the colors too.
Thanks. Well, it's a lot smaller, so I had.
Yeah, that's when you print them out. I find my printer does that too. It scales it right down, but that's okay.
But I just love how different this is. Like, I've drawn a lot of mandalas and it's so different. So I'm excited about, it's a new way to do it. I love, and really actually, this is what this event is all about. It's all about exploring like different perspectives on spirituality and what that means. And so like, even in the process of drawing a mandala, it's like, there's so many different perspectives on doing that. And I love it. It's such a good example for all kinds of things in life. So.
It's almost like we have to approach it from where we are. And I am such I love math. I love geometry. I love that kind of, and patterns. And it tricks me into sitting down with it because I get the patterns, I get the framework. Oh, yay. And then it just tricks me into just letting go and put the shapes in and be with it.
I love that you said that because I feel like I am constantly having to trick myself into things like, even like my yoga practice is a good example. Like if I tell myself that I'm going to like do a half an hour of yoga, like, it's never going to happen. But if I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do 5 minutes, half the time I'll end up on the mat for 30 minutes.
Yes.
But if I start out saying that, it's like, it's just a recipe for disaster for me. So I'm always having to find these little ways to like trick myself into doing the things that I really want to do.
Yep. I always say whatever works, whatever gets you there, because once you get there, then you stay there. And it's about creating the habit, right?
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing this with us. I am so excited to see what all of you created. So I hope you'll pop over into the Facebook group. And any last words you have for us today, Jane?
No, just have fun. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what everybody, and don't judge it. Just do it. Just let it out.
That's right. Just we want to see all of your creative expressions, however they come out.
Yeah.
Really looking forward. In fact, I'm excited now. I'm like, I want to do another one right now.
Good.
Cool. Well, thank you all for being with us. And thanks again, Jane, for joining us today. Look forward to seeing you all in the next session.
Thank you so much.
Blessings, everyone.